Welcome to The Cut, a series where I'm talking to experts about how small changes can have a big impact on patient outcomes after surgery. Hi Ridian, welcome back to The Cut.
Pleasure to be here, Kylie.
Always a pleasure. Now Ridian, let's talk a little bit about some of the work that you and I have been doing around the world in terms of generating awareness and consensus building. Over 48 surgeons have been involved in this project that you and I have been on. But what are some of the real things that have caught your attention in doing this?
I mean, consensus is an interesting process, and the key chairing those meetings, I'm sure you found, was actually not to force people to change their perspective, but actually generally get their perspective in an honest way, and to see how points of agreement can be brought out of surgeons, not necessarily meaning they change their practice, but can they agree principles? And across the board, I think we were lucky to have good surgeons, engaged surgeons, who were prepared to talk about what they did with peers, and then to discuss what you and I would maybe agree is the standard of care we should be having, certainly in terms of undisturbed wound healing. And that was a key thing for me, because I've always banged the drum for length of dressings being on. I've been at the upper end 14 days for a long time now, even off label for most dressings. I like leaving the wound alone because it works. Yeah. But there is, as you know, a lot of ritualization out there, didactic teaching. They change the dressings every 2-4 days just to have a look at the wound.
Oh, it's what the protocol says.
Exactly. We've done it this way. This is my protocol. I'm sticking to it. Yeah. And it was interesting on the consensus level, even though a lot of the surgeons had a differing view on dressing change to myself, we could all agree principles as to what dressings needed changing. When it was absolutely saturated, when it was leaking, when it was lost adhesion, when there was an obvious infection. And we could all agree, apart from that, we should leave it alone. And yet, in the practices, they were happy to admit, well, I change it 2 days, or I change it when the stitches come out, or I change when they get discharged from hospital. So principles, yes, they agree. Practice, a little bit different.
So never the twain shall meet?
Well, listen, in time, I hope so. I think engaging people with the process so they listen to other surgeons saying, well, I do it a little bit longer because I don't think we need to, and understanding that variation exists outside their practice. Often surgeons are so siloed, they don't engage enough with other surgeons about these communal problems we have. And listening to surgeons who say, look, I'm happy to leave it on for 10 or 14 days because I'm using a good dressing, might, I hope, slowly influence people. And certainly with the documentation we produced, we want to reflect the variation that's out there, but also nail what is good practice, what you and I would regard as the best practice to achieve wound care.
And it's always interesting when you bring a scientist to the room, because we'll always talk about the evidence, won't we? And whether a study was up to standard, because that's what the guidelines are built upon. But anecdotally, surgeons can tell you something different.
Yeah, they'll say, look, I don't have problems, therefore why do I change something? Or they'll say, we've always done it this way. There are always excuses as to why they don't engage in the process of improvement and change. And you're right, the evidence has to be there. We can't just go making bland statements because we think it's right. We need evidence. But the evidence is there. We can always have more trials. We should have more trials. But we're at a good point in time where there's enough written, enough out there, both modern studies and historical studies, that I think can justify what we're saying. And if we keep the patient at the forefront of everything, then look, there's evidence out there that supports what we're doing.
Yeah, person-centred care or patient-centred care. That really makes the difference.
Yeah, and not everybody's the same. And we all accept, again, one of the consensus things, we accept preoperative assessment and stratification. But again, to agree what is the high-risk factors isn't difficult. In practice, it doesn't quite translate because there's a timeline pressure. We have to get so many of these joints through this week, this month. And what we should be more often is saying, do you know what? No, not now. We can make you better. You can lose weight. You can stop smoking. Your diabetes isn't well controlled. XYZ, we can improve. And if we can improve something before surgery, we should. It's always about giving the patient the best operation in the safest way. And that includes wound care.
Ridian, always fantastic to talk to you. Thanks for sharing the journey today with me.
It's been a pleasure, and listen, this journey's ongoing, isn't it? We're going to have
many
more meetings and many more podiums shared together.
Absolutely, I look forward to that. Thanks, Ridian.
Thank you.
Bye.